Okay, let's say that you follow the instructions for the simple switch circuit and you've gotten to the point where you're ready to turn your LED on, and you go to press the button and the LED doesn't turn on. The first thing you want to check is your power supply. You want to make sure that you have the orientation of your terminals from your battery snap connector are in the correct position or the correct orientation or in the correct rails where you want your positive and negative side on your breadboard. So in this case, we can see that from the battery snap connector, this black wire here is going to this point in my circuit. But in this point in my circuit, I needed to designate this section as my positive supply here, but I have my black wire or my negative supply going in to where I need my positive supply. And alternatively, you can see that our red wire, which is designated as the positive supply of the battery, is going to where I need to designate my negative supply. So I have these two terminals coming from the battery snap connector to my power source in the wrong orientation, so I need to switch them. So now I have the red wire or the positive lead from the battery snap connector going to my positive supply rail of my breadboard, and now I have the negative lead coming from the battery snap connector going to our negative rail of the breadboard. So now if I press the button, we see that the LED now comes on. But let's say that there was something else going on that you weren't aware of. And let's say that you checked over your power supply and you noticed that your positive supply is going to your positive supply rail on your breadboard and your negative supply is going to your negative rail of your breadboard, but you go to press the button and your LED is not turning on. The next thing that you need to check is the LED itself. An LED is a diode, so it only allows for the flow of current to go in one direction in the circuit. So to determine whether or not you have your LED in the correct orientation is by looking at the LED itself. If you look closely inside, if you can, inside the dome of the LED, in this case we have a red LED, you can see that there's a larger terminal inside. And to me, it looks kind of like a flag. And I always consider that terminal the fat flag of the LED. So when I look at an LED, if I'm able to see inside the dome and I see this fat flag in there, then that tells me that this is the negative side or the cathode of the LED. So in this case, if I get my tweezers here so my fingers aren't in the way, in this case, if you look inside, I can see the fat flag is on this side, which is connected to this terminal here. And that tells me that this leg of the LED is the negative or the cathode of the LED. Also, if you look at an LED, if the leads have not been cut off, you can determine the anode or the positive side of the LED by the longer leg of the LED. This leg is bent right now, but if it were straightened out, this leg here would be longer than this one. So this leg here tells me that this is the positive lead of the LED. So if I place the long leg here of this LED, the long leg is the positive or anode of the LED. If I place it where I need it to be in connection to the resistor, and I place the shorter leg, or where the fat flag is, the shorter leg, my negative lead or cathode, and I place it into my negative supply, then that would show me that the LED is in the correct orientation. So now, if I press the button, the LED lights up. But let's say that your power supply terminals are correctly connected to the positive and negative rail of your breadboard. And let's also say that your LED is in the correct orientation according to our circuit here. But you go to try to press the button of the circuit and the LED does not turn on. So now you need to start looking at how your components or your jumper wires, how they're connected within the circuit. As I was talking, I moved this jumper wire just from this hole or point on the positive supply of the breadboard into this point or onto the negative supply of the breadboard. If you weren't paying attention, and I've done this many times, if you weren't paying attention, you could accidentally be putting one end of a jumper wire in an incorrect point on the breadboard, and it's not connected to, in this case, the positive power supply, so there's no positive supply coming into our circuit to continue the connection to ground. So so we can see that the LED is not lighting up. If I were to just move my jumper into that point and make sure that the other end of the jumper is in line with the leg of this push button, if I now press the button, the LED lights up. So I wanted to make sure in this case that this side of the jumper wire is in connection with my positive supply in order to continue the circuit to the switch, through the switch, and through the resistor, from the resistor through the LED, and from the LED back to ground. The same goes for the resistor. Let's say that the resistor had somehow been placed in this orientation and we weren't paying attention. We can see that this leg of the resistor is not in line, is not in line with these holes here. Because on a breadboard, these holes are connected, but these holes here are not connected to these holes. And we can see that this lead of the resistor on this side is not connected to the switch on this end. And also in this case, this side of the resistor, this terminal here, is not in line with the LED, which should be here. So let me get this closer. If I were to place this lead from this hole to this hole, and place this lead from this hole to this hole in line with the switch. Let me see. We can see now that this leg of the resistor is in line with the LED, with the anode of the LED. And we can see that this leg of the resistor is in line with the switch here. So now if I place my power supply back, we can see that if I press the button, the LED lights up. So you want to check your placement of your jumper wires, your placement of your resistor, and your placement and orientation of your LED. And remember that the orientation of the resistor doesn't matter. So the orientation it's currently in now, let me zoom you in here. The orientation the resistor is in now, the LED lights up. If I were to switch the orientation of the resistor, I'm turning it around and placing it back in the circuit, and I press the button, you can see the LED still lights up. So if you check these common mistakes, you can soon figure out what your issue is and hopefully get your LED to light up.